Hi people, we're continuing with Paris in 4 days. So I reached the 4th day, the second part of the day, so we're almost through. Option Versailles, or Fontainebleau. We leave you to make your own choice for the last afternoon, and describes both Versailles and Fontainebleau. However, we should encourage you to visit both sites, even if it means staying longer than 4 days in Paris, obviously. So, first is Versailles. We're covering how to get there. By road, leave Paris by Porte de Saint-Cloud, or by train from Gare Saint-Lazare or Montparnasse. Needing both to escape from the busy life in Paris and to keep the nobility under his control, Louis XIV built his chateau, in which he set up home and installed the government. The many buildings attached to the chateau form quite a small town. The whole complex is a magnificent monument to the Sun King. So Versailles is shown here, the castle in this painting. An aerial view. The garden facade is 575 meters long. Various annexes are dotted here and there in a park which is several kilometers on both length and breadth. The park shows the skill of Le Notre in making good use of the natural resources on the site. Everything in the town leaves the visitor overwhelmed by the excellent taste as well as the power and wealth of the man for whom it was built. The few alterations made in the 18th century have in no way detracted from the splendor of this monument, to which the magnificence of the great king is still the key. So the castle is very long, and it has fountains all over the place. Like I can see about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 fountains, 11 fountains, 12, 13. That's a lot of fountains in their garden. They must really like fountains. As the tour of the buildings has to be made with an official guide, we concentrate on the external architecture and the park. You approach the palace through the Place des Armes, a semicircular courtyard enclosed by the palace railings. From here, look at the original building, the small hunting lodge built by Louis XVIII in 1631, when Versailles was only a marshy forest where the king came to hunt deer and boar. The buildings on either side housed the beaters. Beyond this first courtyard with large round paving stones and office buildings at the sides is the narrower Cour des Ministres. Finally, you reach the Cour des Marbre and Louis XVIII's small lodge, easily recognizable by the alternating red brick and white stone work. Louis XIV lives here behind the 3 tall windows which open up on the balcony. The rural aspect of this building has been blended with the majesty of the newer editions by the work of Leval, François d'Orbe, then by Hardouin Mansart. Who lengthened the wing and decorated the walls with busts and the balustrade of the roof with trophies. Hardouin Mansart also added a story to the old castle. This was cleverly done by framing the central pavilion with a steeply sloping roof, whose fanlights hide the added story. The town side of the building, with the successive planes, fails to convey the grandeur of the place. One should go via the gardens in the late afternoon, when the sun is tinging the interminable series of windows with red vividness. Then the chateau rises, imposing, seen from the end of the water garden. The whole aspect could be monotonous, but with the dark shadows in the ground floor arcades and the continuity of the central building, broken by columns, as well as trophies and the roof balustrade, this danger is avoided. The Galerie des Glaces replaced the terrace left by the Leval. The whole central body of the place or palace is as if it was projected forward by immense wings, added by Hardouin Mansart. While uninterested in themselves, they give emphasis to the center building, as does an orchestra to its soloist. To the right, through the south flower border, is the Orangerie, another of Hardouin Mansart's masterpieces, taking advantage of the orientation on a steep slope. La Notre had the more delicate trees planted there. This was originally a storeroom. So here it says the Parterres de Ile and the castle, so the sculpture's name, and this is the Bassin de la Tonne. I guess that means basin. There's sculptures inside the fountain. And that's a woman and a child, if you can't tell. This was originally a storeroom built in the beautifully simple classic style. Plain stone and several arches are ornamented with four pairs of columns and at the entrance. So this is showing the Galerie des Glaces. A succession of high vaulted galleries supports the buildings. On each side of the courtyard are the 100 steps, 2 huge flights of stairs leading up to the building. The park, arranged by Le Notre is magnificent, with statues and water displays, including by Girardon in the winter pool, the delicate Rape of Persephone by Coysevox, the more peaceful and admirable nymph in the shell on the right of the Laton pool by the Marcy brothers, the Bacchus fountain, and the Laton pool. This is showing the Galerie des Batailles. The Trianon. Set apart from the palace and its crowds, the kings came here to find the peace of nature and the society of close friends. The Grand Trianon was built for Louis XIV by Hardouin Mansart. This luxurious single-story building blends into pink and green marble frontage into the surrounding woodland. Napoleon enjoyed living here, and his influence is still felt in the furnishings. The Petit Trianon, less majestic, lies more intimately close to nature. Reflect the grace of the two women who inspired it. The Marquise de Pompadour had the French pavilion built by Gabriel in 1755 so that she could retire to the bottom of the park behind those high, narrow windows while the Petits were playing on the edge of the roof. Facing it is a real palace in miniature, to which Gabriel gave the same impressiveness as the buildings in the Place de Concorde, and where Louis XV commissioned exquisite decorations for the Du Barry. The sensibilities of the 18th century came to an end, and the naturalistic taste triumphed in the winding pathways of the English garden with its river, its lake, and the graceful temple of love. Marie Antoinette used to come here to play at being a peasant woman in a pastoral comedy village, which has all the charm of pictures by the Boucher or Fragonard. This was showing the Hameau de la Reine. It looks like a small lake or pond. Nice shade of green and tall trees and grass, etc. And I think there's a bridge there too. There's a pond, a bridge, and a big house there. So the second thing is option or destination, I guess. Fontainebleau, how to get there by car down the southern motorway and by train from Gare de Lyon. The enormous forest of Fontainebleau soon attracted the greatest hunters of French kings. Philippe Auguste built a palace there where Philippe le Bel was born. In the 15th century, the sovereigns preferred the banks of the Loire, but Francois I, won over at his first visit, turned Fontainebleau into a large royal residence and began the building of the palace around the Philippe Auguste keep. His successors extended it, particularly Henry IV, who kept to the original style of the building. Louis XIV and Louis XV showed more interest in the gardens. This is showing Napoleon in the costume of Sacre. He's quite lovely. That dress is amazing. It's like gold everywhere. Gold thread and tassels. And a head. Golden head wreath. It looks like, and his furniture is also gold, like his stool or ottoman is like leather and gold. And is that a chair or a bed or something? Also black leather and gold. Fontainebleau Le Chateau general view. So it's like enormous with big buildings and like castle-like buildings. A whole lot of space. I think that's a fountain way over there. Yeah, and I think that's fur and silk. Wow. Amazing. And then it says, under Louis Philippe, the place was restored with a thoughtlessness from which the interior decoration of the 16th century suffered irreparable damage. The buildings and the gardens. Before visiting the interior, it is as well to make a general tour of the whole site. You enter through the fine gateway of the Cour du Cheval Blanc, or Cour d'Adieu. It was in this courtyard that Napoleon made his last inspection of the old guard before leaving for Elba. The building at the rear has very much been altered since the Renaissance, and only the original pointed roofs and tall windows of the 5 pavilions survive. Louis XIII had the 2 ornamental curved staircases built to lead up to the main floor. Passed to the right of these staircases into the Cour de la Fontaine. The buildings here were erected in the 16th century for Catherine de' Medici, who lived in the left wing. At the far end of the terrace is the Francois I Gallery. Facing this gallery is the 4-acre pool, famous for its carp, some of which are supposed to be 100 years old. According to tradition, rather optimistic, since the last war, the Germans emptied the pool of all its occupants. Let's see. One follows the side of the ballroom and the round apse of the chapel to the Porte Dauphine, 1608, with its large dome and fluted columns. Henry IV had this built to make the Cour Ovale, the oldest part of the palace, look more stately. To your left in this courtyard is the glass facade of the ballroom with its large arcades separated by pilasters, the work of Philibert Delorme. The right wing is an elegant 2-story building with a graceful porch. The huge 12th century keep behind blends well with the whole, which is built on medieval foundations. Hence, the apparent irregularity of the building. Go back to the Cour d'Adieu to visit the interior apartments. Here we point out only 1 or 2 interesting rooms. The Salle du Conseil was decorated under Louis XV. The ceiling shows Phoebus, Victor of the Night, and the 4 Seasons by Boucher. The figures on the walls and doors are by Carl van Loo and Pierre. Fine Empire-style furniture. This is showing the palace from one angle. La Cour des Adieux. I don't really understand. Is that a painting? It's hard to see it very well. And then the apartments of Marie Antoinette have their original furnishings. The desk inlaid with the mother of pearl, the boudoir, the bed, and magnificent silk draperies of the chamber de la Reine, the games room, and all are unrivaled in their elegance. But the most original element, at last correctly restored by the work undertaken in 1961, is due to the sumptuous and pagan association of the painting, the stucco work and the bronzes which a group of French and Italian artists executed for Francois I under the direction of Matisse and Rousseau between the years 1530 and 1540. You will find the first example of this in the fireplace of the Francois I saloon. A better one in the casing of the Escalier du Roi, where the decoration of the bedroom of the Duchesse or Duchess d'Étampes is preserved, a magnificent group of frescoes surrounded by women, characteristic of Matisse, cherubs, masks, and garlands of fruit. The Francois I Gallery has kept the allegoric paintings of Rousseau with the same round bass frame. This close association of the painter and the sculpture with the clear and bright colors of the pictures defines the Fontainebleau school. Finally, the Empire style is well represented in the series of small apartments decorated under Louis XV but furnished by Napoleon I. See also the theater by Lefeuille, 1875, whose studied curves herald the modern style. This is showing the ballroom. I guess where they have balls or parties and this was the Salle du Trône, the throne room. This is like an actual castle, I guess. This is where you have a throne. And this is showing the carp pool, the Pavillon de l'Empereur. Okie dokie. This is Salle Francois I. and some random rocks and trees. Art and nature. What a contrast. So they have a list of all the theaters: Alliance Francaise, Ambassadeurs, Antoine, Atelier, Athénée, Bouffes, Parisiens, Capucines, Carré Torigny, Champs-Élysées, Charles de Rochefort, Châtelet, Comédie Carmartin, Comédie Champs-Élysées, Comédie Française, Comédie Wagram, Downeux, Edward VII, Espace Pierre Cardin, Fontaine, Gaîté, Montparnasse, Gramont, Gymnase, Heppertot, Pouchete, La Bruyère, Madeleine, Marigny, Mathurins, Michel, Michaudière, Mojador, Montparnasse, Nouvetus, Auvray, Opéra Comique, Palais Royal, Pochet Montparnasse, Porte Saint-Martin, Recamier, Renaissance, Saint Georges, Tertre, Theater 102, Maison de Radio France, Théâtre de la Musique, Théâtre de les Parisiens, Théâtre de France, Odéon. Théâtre en Ronde, Théâtre National Populaire, Théâtre de la Ville, Variétés, Vieux, Colombier. Varieties and chansons, Bobino, Casino de Paris, Concert Mayol, Folie Bergeret, Moulin Rouge, Olympia, Palais de Congrès, Palais de Sports. Then Cabaret, Shema Cuisine, Crazy Horse Saloon, Don Camilo, Étoile de Moscou, Lido, Mimi Pinson, Paradis Latin, Novi, Ori Dugo, Rasputin, Scheherazade, Sexy, Tsarevitz, Via de Est. And then Chansonniers, Caveau de la République, Coco de Ans, Tete de l'Art. Then Cinemas, Ambassade, Cumont, Balzac, Berlitz, Biarritz, Bonaparte, Volmich, Bretagne, Cameo, Capri, Champs-Élysées, Colisée, Concorde, Concordia, Eldorado, Élysées, Cinema, Hermitage, Français, Gaumont Theater, Gaîté, Rochechouart, George V, Helder, Hollywood Images, Imperial Latin, Lord Byron, Medellin, Marbeuf, Marignan, Marival, Max Linder, Mercury, Miramar, Monte Carlo, Moulin Rouge, Napoleon, Normandie, Pantheon, Paramount Plaza, Rastel, Richelieu, Gamont, Rotonde, Royal, Scala, Strasbourg, Studio Bertrand, Studio L'Étoile, Studio de l'Étoile, Studio Parnasse, Studio Universel, Triomphe, Ursulines, Vedette, and Vendôme. What is this? Agenda for Arc de Triomphe, Place de l'Étoile. Every day from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. in winter, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. in summer, except on Tuesday. Basilique du Sacré-Cœur.